Guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and we're back taking a look at another just military gaming video. This is going to be Army Convoy Ambush Valley from WarfareGaming. Dude, let's get into this. So, fun fact, I have actually been the convoy of a convoy ambush. Not a great feeling. All right, so this looks like it's set in like a simulated Iraq. Iraq would not often have these bodies of water, but they would have canals often, irrigation canals.
There was this noise out in the hallway.
All right, so it looks like this is supposed to be set. You can see the U.S. Army is wearing UCP, the Universal Camouflage Pattern. This really hideous digital gray-green that was supposed to blend in everywhere, but blended in nowhere. They introduced that actually when I was in my basic training in 2006 and phased it out in about 2013. So basically the duration of my service. But because they are wearing Humvees, we can guess and say this is probably set in about 2007, 2008, 2009.
Wait, tell your mother you died like a man.
Relax, man.
Okay, man, let's move out. All right, boys, let's move.
Okay, so it looks like they I always get a kick out of this. Normally, you would expect to see almost all these guys having camelbacks, hydration bladders, because it is really hot in the desert. It's even hotter wearing all of that body armor, so you definitely want to have your hydration on you. Also, if you're in full battle rattle, right, helmet and IBA on, you're gonna also want to have your rifle, right? If you've got this gear on because you expect someone to shoot at you, you should also probably have your weapon so you can shoot back. Yeah, when you're deployed, you don't usually store your weapons in a weapons locker. You're expected to carry it with you all time, usually with a magazine in the well. That's because even on secure forward operating bases, you still have a considerable threat of insurgent activity. Insurgents are always trying to break into the bases. Sometimes they will pose as like Iraqi or Afghan police to get on. So the threat is constant and real. And every soldier on that, every soldier, sailor, airman, and marine on those forward operating bases will always be armed.
Move, move, move! Hop in the vehicle, we're going.
All right, what's interesting is that these are actually, there's a little bit of an incongruity here. This type of vehicle, right, these armored Humvees, you see this armor's looking pretty light, and this turret, right, has limited armor on the sides and rear, and all that indicates to us that this is actually a Humvee from the early Iraq War, 2003, 4, and 5, right? By 2005, they had gotten what they called up-armored kits to Humvees, sort of like a Humvee that could carry a lot more armor on the sides and top and in the turret, and had a more powerful engine to haul it. So the fact that they're wearing digital camouflage but are in these older style Humvees is a tiny detail the game seems to have gotten wrong. Okay, so this is interesting. I've seen a lot of convoys that use these vehicles. These are sometimes called wreckers, and but I've never seen one where it was a troop carrier, where there were just troops loaded into the back. Almost always, you will put troops into either armored personnel carriers, APCs like the Bradley or Stryker, or you will have just more people sitting in the Humvees, right? You notice there's a driver, a gunner, and a truck commander, the TC. There's a fourth seat that you can put extra soldiers in to plus up your numbers in a convoy, give you extra firepower, let you have people who can dismount and maneuver. It's all sort of useful, but I've really never seen soldiers load into a truck like this that has no armor. It's just too risky, even in the early Iraq War battlefield. You would put these guys in a Stryker. But these things can also, these wrecker vehicles can also carry fuel, they can carry food, they can carry water, they can carry a lot of things. They can even have a specialty version that's designed to be basically a tow truck for huge vehicles, right? Huge armored military vehicles. So definitely these wreckers would go out all the time with an armed escort, just like what we're seeing now. They just wouldn't have people in the back. All right, right there we're seeing, and maybe, I don't know if these are players or if this is just a little sort of movie, but what you will see is the convoy is making a couple of problems. The first is that the gun trucks are all in the lead. 4 lead gun trucks, then it looks like 3 supply convoy type trucks. And that's a problem because obviously there's no one watching this rear. Literally there's no one, there's not even a turret here. And you notice all of these gunners are pointing their weapons straight forward at the 12 o'clock. So not only are they only looking at forward when they should be looking to either side and behind them, but they're actually pointing their weapons at each other. Real convoy, your lead truck will face forward, right? Truck number 2 will face this way, truck number 3 will face this way, and truck number 4 will face to the rear. And those trucks will envelop the less armored, less secure logistics trucks. They will be placed in the center of the convoy with probably 2 armored Humvees on either side, or even 2 Humvees in the rear, or 2 Humvees in the front, 1 in the rear, and then 1 in the middle of the trucks, depending on a bunch of different factors. Yep, drone escort, that's exactly how that might go. Again, it's tough to know, but in 2006, I don't know if they would be feeding that drone feed directly into the Humvees, but someone on the radio there'd be someone in a command center watching the drone feed, relaying information to the commander of the convoy.
I like cheeseburgers, man, and french fries. You know what I would do for a cheeseburger and french fries right now?
So fucking hungry.
Okay, so let's talk about this ambush position. Let's break it down. So this is actually a great ambush position for a couple of reasons. The first, obviously, standing up, being in the open like this before you launch your ambush, not great. You want to have some sort of what's called cover. Well, you want to have cover. They have cover in the form of this trench line. They also have a nice advantage in that they have elevation on their target vehicles, these convoys, right? They also, of course, facing the same way. Normally what you would want to see in an ambush like this is called a linear ambush because they're, well, in a line, is that on either side, the front and rear end of this ambush, you will actually have 2 people who are facing out to the sides. And that's just to cover your sides and cover your back so that the enemy doesn't accidentally, or not accidentally, or on purpose, flank around you and surprise you. But most of your firepower is going to be facing forward. Now, what they don't think they've done that well is created a funnel. When you ambush someone, you want to make it so it's really hard for them to maneuver in the ambush zone. And as you can see, these trucks, there's nothing stopping them from pulling hard to the left, hard to the right, crisscross. But so you want to sort of box in your enemy, especially when you're ambushing vehicles, because if you do it properly, you can destroy the lead vehicle, destroy the trail vehicle, and then if the other vehicles cannot leave the road, say because there's buildings or rocks or a canal or a cliffside, then you've trapped those remaining vehicles. Even though they're operational, they're pinned between 2 of their broken friendly vehicles, and it makes it much easier to finish your ambush. Let's see how they run it. Okay, so it may not be. This may actually be a what's sometimes called an L-shaped ambush, right? You notice how there's another formation ready to maneuver on them. An L-shaped ambush is when you have one line of fire here and another line of fire at a 90-degree angle. Usually this occurs at, say, a bend in the road, and this is just so dangerous because if you take fire this way and you get cover from it, you expose yourself to the fire coming from the other direction. So it's an extremely lethal ambush, but it requires a really specific type of terrain to run effectively.
Sectors range suspicious activity. Copy!
Okay, ambush right set. First off, yelling it is important, but if you see it, you should shoot at them. But here's the key detail, and man, they got this just right. You notice the ambush began with a large casualty producing weapon. That is a classic sign of being a well-trained military group, is that you open your ambush with the most casualty producing weapon, and in this case it is an RPG. In fact, the ambush I was in, this is exactly what they did. They attempted to hit the lead vehicle with an RPG. My vehicle, in fact. Thankfully they led the vehicle just a little too much and were just a couple of meters in front. But man, it would have been a bad day if that had connected.
Open fire! Get up! Get up!
Yep, this is good. They're returning fire immediately. That lead Humvee is damaged. I'm here to tell you that if you took a direct shot with an RPG like that, those guys inside would not be popping out and returning fire. They would be probably all casualties of some form or another. Yep, this is exactly why you do not want to have large numbers of troops concentrated in a non-armored vehicle. Other than that, this ambush line is looking good. Effective, I should say. Yep, okay, so let's see what we're trying to look at here. All right, again, how good is this ambush site? This is not that good of an ambush location. It looks like, I can't tell if these are friendlies or enemies that are trying to push up, but the proper response to an ambush is first to get as much volume of fire as you possibly can going back at the enemy, right? You want to get as many of their heads down as possible, right? And try to get back up to parity. Second, you want to, if possible, start recovering your damaged vehicles, right? The ambush, the enemy has chosen the time and place and of the fight, right? They have all the advantages. So unless they are very, very close to you, you want to try to dip on out of there, right? Fight them when you have the advantages. So what this vehicle 2 would want to do is pull up. You see how it can easily pull up in front. They'll have a tow strap in the back. You hook up that tow strap, you get your casualties into vehicles, and you just start pushing. Now the danger is that, again, look in the back here, this entire back half of the convoy is undefended. So the enemy is going to be able to just rake that with fire and not worry about return fire.
I'm gonna kill all of them!
Never heard anybody yell like that about like just generic non-communicative information. Usually the yelling that takes place is to communicate very specific information about the situation. Enemy 5 o'clock, RPG, vehicle 2 is hit, etc., etc.
We are taking heavy and direct fire in our sector. We cannot move. Request immediate assistance. Over.
Roger, solid copy. Continue. Over.
Yeah, you would not say continue. So he does call it direct fire. What this technically is I believe you would call it, because there's an RPG, you would call it a complex attack or a complex ambush. Simple ambushes are those with just direct fire weapons. You say, honestly, that is enough information for a TOC, a Tactical Operating Center, to start to generate assistance. The only thing the TOC may also need is the convoy's location, so it can send the help to the right spot. And what a good operations cell is going to do, they're going to hear that, and they are going to do things like pull up the convoy's manifest, but mostly they're going to call their hire, and they are going to ask to scramble air assets. Oftentimes, they can get fighter jets to go supersonic, especially in a situation like this, and get the fighter jets overhead in a matter of minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. If there's, for example, a Predator drone overhead, they can divert that. Sometimes they can also scramble rotary wing assets like an attack helicopter. But that's what a good TOC is going to do. They are going to start making those calls right away, trying to see what help is available and get the fastest help there possible. What that operations center is also going to do is tell the QRF, right? This is the quick reaction force of the nearest friendly base. They're going to say, hey, we need you to scramble right now. they don't use the word scramble. That's an aircraft thing. They're going to call out the QRF. The QRF is going to pile into their vehicles. They are already ready. They have already assigned their vehicles. Their vehicles are probably either already running or are just a turn of the key away, proverbially. And they are going to set out to assist this friendly unit, even if it's just to be more firepower.
Be back, Jake!
Okay, just want to point some things out. This is very dramatic. Normally, you would absolutely never just engage targets in the open, right? You would get behind some sort of cover. The engine block of these vehicles is cover. Rocks are cover. The Humvees themselves are cover. There's a lot of things that can be used as some form of cover, and then you will engage targets from a covered position.
Right over here, we got a fucking man down!
Yes, these two guys are you're right. These guys are doing it properly. This guy has found cover. I understand. This is a pretty crude video, but I'm just pointing out what's being illustrated properly and what isn't.
I'm reloading! Man down! Get mad up for this fucking thing!
Yeah, that's exactly actually how this should go. If your gunner is a casualty, you get your gunner out of the gun, you try to treat them if you can, and you put someone else in the gun. This is why cross-training is important. Every soldier needs to know how to operate that 50 cal. Absolutely have had some solid, outstanding soldiers who have done just that. When that gunner takes a casualty, don't even need prompting, don't even need command. They see the gun's empty and they climb into it and get after it. So if this, right, these numbers are extremely bad news for that convoy. They look like they're outnumbered probably 4 or 5 to 1, maybe more. It is extremely bad news when the enemy has such fire superiority that they can maneuver in the open and push to your location. Again, the idea is if you get enough fire going that you can at least scare them enough, right? No one wants to die recklessly. And so if you can you just need to achieve like the same volume of fire that they do. And if the enemy is pushing down, charging at you, you haven't done that. There's not enough rounds downrange to scare them back into their trenches.
I'm out! Reloading! Target number, Sierra Tango 356.
Yes, this is exactly right. You can see it looks like this is trying to say that the convoy commander is calling for fire. So what you will normally do, if you can, you'll use something called TRPs, or target reference points. These are pre-designated targets that something like artillery or aircraft is already briefed on. You don't need to walk that aircraft onto the target. You just say, hey, the enemy is, X meters north, south, east, or west of target reference point, or TRP Bravo, or TRP Bravo 6. And they go, okay, roger that, Bravo 6. Aircraft gets on station. They know exactly where Bravo 6 is. They know the enemy is 300 meters to the north, and they say, I see them. They put rounds on target. It's meant to be a simple, easy way to walk rounds onto your target. Now, the nice thing is if you're an aircraft, you can also come on station. You can talk directly to that convoy commander, and that convoy commander will probably give you the simplest version, which is a cardinal direction and a distance from, say, the lead truck in the convoy. So in this case, it's very easy because there's very little cover, there's no civilians, not a lot of it's easy to discern which target is which, and that convoy commander is going to say, hey, be advised, enemy dismounts, looks like 1 to 200 of them, or 30 to 40 of them, in the open, about 200 to 300 meters north of our location. You're probably, honestly, the aircraft will be like, hey, roger, I see them. you know, maybe they'll tell you what ordnance they have on station, but usually if it's just a regular ground commander, not a JTAC, the pilot themselves will choose what ordnance to drop. And usually they'll be like, hey, I've got it, I'm gonna put rounds on target, and then the ground commander will give the final authority to drop those rounds. Because it's inside of 300 meters, you would use danger close. It would be a danger close call. That commander would say, yes, I authorize danger close. They would give their initials confirming it. And then the aircraft would drop that ordnance. That commander's going to put out over his own net, hey, get down, ordnance incoming, and everyone is going to get down and get behind cover while that bomb drops.
Airstrike inbound to our danger close.
Yep, there we go.
Here they come. Moving to combat. Incoming.
Going to point out that usually if you see a friendly casualty, you are going to run out, grab them, and drag them behind cover so that the enemy won't continue to shoot at them, because they may still be alive, they may be unconscious, and you can't treat them until you get them behind cover. But in a firefight, your priority isn't treating friendlies, it is engaging the enemy in a situation like this where you haven't yet reached your parity or superiority of fire. Yeah, that's more or less right. I think you save fire for effect for artillery.
Reloading!
And this looks like it's aircraft.
I'm out! Cover me!
Firing.
Target effect! Target effect!
Okay, you wouldn't call target effect. I'm not sure what you would call. Yeah, you'd probably just use layman's terms. You'd probably be like, hey, that was a good strike, that was spot on. Or you would call for adjusting fire. You'd say, hey, you were a little short, you were a little long. Or you would call another target. You would say, hey, that was a good hit, next target, or stand by for next target. And then you would say, okay, next target is going to be, you know, north heading 350 from my location, 300 meters, you know, fire authorized or whatever. Strike authorized? I don't know.
Ceasefire! Come on, go, go, go! Move, move, move!
Yeah, guess what? You're not going to call ceasefire. You are going to be slinging lead until your convoy is rolling again. Okay, the interesting thing to me is that usually if you have an ambush like this, especially if it's accompanied by a big push, you want to decisively engage them. You want to push with all of your forces. You're not going to keep the majority of your forces in reserve in a village like this. It's just not going to be worth it. And I'm also going to tell you, dismounts in these areas are just not worth it, right? What you want to do is get out of there. You've taken too many casualties. Remember, you need to get them back and treat them. So the fact that they're dismounted, going house to house, clearing this village is just not worth it. Instead, you are either going to turn around and go back through the route that you know is clear, which is probably what I would do, unless I was just like really close to a friendly base in front of me. Or you are going to mount up, you are going to push right through that village as fast as possible, and you are going to engage targets while rolling.
Go, go! I'm reloading! Retreat! I'm out! Cover me! Enemy sighted. Squad, move in!
I mean, here's the thing to remember is that these, Again, these 50 cals, these mounted weapons, pack so much more of a punch than your small arms, and they are pretty ferocious in terms of the power they can lay down, that just having 4 mounted gun trucks is going to be sufficient. Though you can see they've already kind of screwed up, right? Here's these 2 gun trucks who have pushed way far ahead. Here's 1 gun truck back here, and then they've left these other vehicles totally undefended. This is just a huge mess, right? Not how this should go at all. Instead, what you should do, and it's really common, it is really common to have, in the heat of battle, have some gun trucks push ahead because they may not realize the trucks in the back are disabled or are stuck. Real common to have convoy commanders think they have the whole convoy when they don't. All of which happens all of the time, right? Is a routine thing that sort of happens because in combat you get tunnel vision. And so this would not be something that I would describe as unexpected or even unprofessional. This is just a thing that happens in sort of the chaos of battle. But you should really need to get control of it because these Humvees are going to be, especially if there are insurgents in here, they're going to be in trouble. You have to link your forces back up and consolidate your firepower, especially when you don't have a numerical advantage. All right, guys. Wow, that was actually pretty interesting. I really enjoyed that. It was definitely an interesting look at the whole a not terrible depiction of counterinsurgency type combat. That would have been was a little bit dramatic, right? The people dying and yelling like "Ugh!" And there were just a lot more casualties. The reality is that it's just a lot harder to inflict casualties when you're at these great distances, when you have up-armored Humvees, body armor. Yeah, it's just tough to do. It's just tough to do. The only thing, and it's why smart bombs, like you saw with that Predator drone, are just so decisive, because it can look down, there is no cover, there is no hiding, and you can walk those rounds right onto the target. That's why aircraft are so feared in modern combat. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me on this look. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos, and until next time, oh, and remember, follow me on Twitch. I'm going to start streaming almost every day, so you'd make sure you hit follow and come join me over there. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.